Goddamn. From New York all across the world. Yeah.
I could feel it building up. Something's changing in my blood. Waiting for the takeover. The birth of a rebel. I could feel it building up. Something's changing in my blood. Waiting for the takeover. The birth of a rebel.
What happened to rebels that broke rules? Now all of a sudden it's cool to be cool. Everybody all lost in the groove. That's a size too big. Don't get lost in them shoes. Walk around frontin' in a fly ass suit. You ain't buy that suit. That's a lie. That's cute. Jumping out of planes with no parachute. You should have thought about the shit. Now poof. Life only gives you one chance to be right. So be up with the cool or down with the fight. I ain't trying to influence you at all, but even Wall Street's wall fell victim to a fall. And I'ma hit you with the facts, and I just may lose you in this rap. But pay attention, try not to fall off track. The bottom line is the rebel is back. Let's go.
I could feel it building up. Something's changing in my blood. Waiting for the takeover. The birth of a rebel. I could feel it building up. Something's changing in my blood. Waiting for the takeover. The birth of a rebel.
Can't stop me, can't touch me.
The birth of a rebel.
Can't stop me, can't touch me.
The birth of a rebel.
Can't stop me, can't touch me.
The birth of a rebel.
Welcome to Buzz Talk Live. Born in Elmont, New York, growing up in Plainview, Long Island, my guest tonight, Tommy the Razor Rainone, found the sport of boxing at a very young age. After his formative years as a youth, his attitude as a teen was that the world was against him. And once he started boxing, that refocused his life and he would never look back. At 17 years old, he found the Westbury Boxing Club to train in, which would serve as his home for the rest of his career. Tommy's amateur career was brief, consisting of approximately 30 fights. In that short span, he fought a variety of world-class fighters, including former welterweight world champion Luis Collazo. After having numerous fights spanning in the 2000s, Tommy turned pro late, but that would pay off. On November 13th, 2014, he won a 10-round decision over Carl McNichols at the Space in Westbury, Long Island, and he was crowned with the welterweight title. Soon after his victory came the biggest fight of his career, where he headlined Rock Nation Sports' first boxing event at Madison Square Garden, which was televised on Fox Sports for the WBC Continental Americas title against Dusty Hernandez-Harrison. The fight went 10 rounds, with Harrison winning with a decision. A local celebrity that packs a punch is with us tonight, so please remember your chats as we welcome former welterweight champion Tommy the Razor Rainone to Buzz Talk Live. How you doing, Tommy?
I'm good. Yourself?
Pretty good, my friend. How are you? Doing
good.
Good tonight? Everything's okay?
Everything's good.
You're relaxing? Everything's good. That's great. So thanks for being on the program. It's always great to have a local champ on Buzz Talk Live. And thanks for making the time for me tonight.
Absolutely.
You got an interesting pass. Let's start briefly. As far as you going into this whole boxing, it started with a movie, Rocky. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, I guess that was kind of the catalyst that got me interested in boxing. But I saw Rocky when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I was.
You're hooked.
Yeah, I was hooked. And I wanted to box as early as 7 or 8 years old. And my my family just figured it would be a phase that would go away, like young kids go through many phases, and it never did. I didn't get to start boxing until I was 17 because, back then, boxing gyms are not on every corner for starters. They weren't easy to find back then, even tougher to find back then with no internet.
Yeah, no, I mean, let's face it, it's not the sport that every kid goes after. Boxing is even today, I mean, with MMA and everything like that, kids are geared differently. And when you were growing up, that was sort of at the end of, I shouldn't say at the end of that boxing craze, but, the movie Rocky, I mean, that's what turned me on to boxing too back in the day. And on our previous call leading up to this tonight was, talking about how Rocky in the movie, drank the eggs and everything. And I did that.
Yeah. I didn't. I never tried to eat the eggs. I'll tell you,
it's disgusting.
That Rocky was the catalyst, but what's interesting is kind of intertwined because growing up, I was obsessed with wrestling, with WWF wrestling.
Yeah, sure, of course.
So in the early 80s, that was the wrestling boom, and that was when, the WWF took over the world. So on some level, I guess I knew it wasn't real, but, you suspend belief a little bit. Now just the combination of combat in a ring and the ring attire that they wear and the music they come out to and everything. And then I came across boxing. I saw Rocky, and then I'm just like, oh, this is like a different version of wrestling almost.
Absolutely.
And then about I would say about 9 years old, then I saw Mike Tyson fight, and that was when he was in his prime.
Yeah.
And he was a wrecking machine, and that was the real reality of both the movie Rocky, the WWF stuff that I grew up liking,
and then Tyson.
That's when I really wanted to start boxing.
Yeah,
and then, as early as 9-10 years old, I started following it on a regular basis, watching like most of the big fights. I knew who all the players were. I watched the fights on HBO, on Showtime, and again, my family kind of any direction that I went in, whether I was with my mother, my father, my grandfather, everybody was kind of hoping that it was a phase that would go away, and it never did.
Well, look,
I wasn't able to start until I was 17.
It's totally understandable for a parent, with a kid that's under 10 years old and they want to box. That's their baby. They don't want you to get hurt, and but you're driven. You're a driven person, and the passion that you have for the sport, outweighed their decision. And
yeah, but ultimately, I'll tell you, I do wish that now that I do personal training now, but it's on a white collar level. So now I'm just training people to get them in shape, and they want to learn boxing a little bit. And I've had parents ask me, is my son or daughter, but usually son, is my son too young to box? And I always give them the same answer. I said, there's no such thing as being too young to box, because you're never too young to have structure and discipline in your life. And,
that's
and
right.
have a passion for something. Now, being too young to spar, that's a different ballgame.
Right.
So, I mean, I wish that I had started at 8-9 years old, because then I wouldn't have developed bad habits that I had already when I was 17 years old. I was already smoking cigarettes. I was already drinking. I was already doing other things.
So you're a rebel. You're a rebel without a cause there.
Yeah. Well,
like my friend behind me over here, James Dean.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at Mike, actually, because he's a little bit of a rebel too. On the
yeah. Well, he's another rebel.
Yeah, but I already had a lot of afflictions at 17 that I wouldn't have had most likely had I started boxing at a younger age. So I do wish I wish I would have started, because if I started at a younger age, it took me a while to get past a lot of things.
So
that's why I didn't turn pro till I was 26.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So leading up to your pro debut, you had I found it was 30. You had 30 amateur fights.
Yeah, around there, like 30, 35, around there. Yeah.
Right. And were they all cake, or was it a struggle for you?
Struggle.
Yeah.
It's a struggle, because listen, I didn't train right in the amateurs. So I'll tell you the truth, I didn't pick up a jump rope until getting ready for my second pro fight. I never jumped rope in my life.
Really?
When I was in the amateurs, I never ran. I didn't jump rope. I didn't hit a speed bag. So essentially, I would just spar a lot. I'd hit the pads with my trainer. I'd hit the bag, and that was pretty much my workout.
Yeah.
I would go to the gym and I would do what I did, and maybe I could have had a couple of better coaches in the amateurs that would have forced me to do certain things. But if you're not taught and you're not forced to do something, you're not going to pick it up on your own in most cases, especially when you're young. So
Yeah.
I didn't train right at all in the amateurs,
So-
and I wasn't living right either.
Right. So you found the Westbury Boxing Club. You know, how did you happen along Westbury Boxing Club? How did you find that place?
I moved to Plainview from Elmont. I moved to Plainview when I was 12 years old, and
Okay.
it wasn't until I was about 17 that a kid in high school who was a couple of years older than me, he had 3 amateur fights, and he told me about a gym on Post Avenue in Westbury. And when I tell you that I went the next day, I went the next day. My friend Brian, he drove. I didn't have my license yet. We hopped in his car. We went to Westbury, and I remember like it was yesterday. We walked in. There's 2 rings there. And it's an intimidating environment for a person. For me, I mean, it's like walking into a friend's house. You know, now.
Right.
But back then, when you walk into a box,
You were intimidated. Yeah, you see all the fighters.
Environment.
Right.
Even if you're a little bit of a tough guy to begin with. Now, my friend wasn't. I like to think I was. Regardless, we walked in and we're like, wow, you know. We spoke to a trainer there, and he said, "You come back Monday." And then he said to my friend, he's like, "You got to lose a little weight. You got to start running. Come back after you lose 15 pounds." And he was kind of intimidated by that statement and like a little embarrassed.
Right.
He never came back. I went back Monday, and
Wow.
and I got to the gym. However, I had to get to the gym if it meant taking a cab.
You know, speaking of friends, there, Tommy. The one thing about this show is the chats, and already the chats are coming in. And Jay Hizzo, shout out from your boy in Colorado. You know,
What up, Jay?
Breeze Fever, Clash of Clans. I don't know what that is. Yay boys. So people are watching. People are watching tonight, which is great. Welcome aboard. You know, get your chats ready for questions for Tommy during the program. So tell me, how did you meet Jorge Gallardo?
You know, I didn't start working with him until I turned pro. So when I was in amateurs training,
okay.
But I knew him in the amateurs, but I didn't really speak too much. See, I was more reserved than I was. I wouldn't go as far. Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as saying a shy teenager. With my friends, I wasn't, but around strangers, I was a lot more reserved. So I would go to Westbury. I would train. I would work out. I had my trainer, and Jorge trained Jake the Snake Rodriguez, who won a world title, and he was also at that time he was training Willie Wise, who beat Julio Cesar Chavez, who beat some good fighters, who was a contender in his own right. So Jorge was like a good professional trainer, and it was just a high and by type thing. So when I came back to boxing, I stopped when I was 23. I took 3 years off. So when I came back at 26, I started getting myself in shape and taking my time to pick the right trainer. And then my old assistant trainer, his name is Renson De Los Santos. He mentioned, you know, Jorge. He's just like, why don't you reach out to Jorge? And I'm just like, you know what? That's not a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea, right?
And again, I never really spoke to Jorge when I was an amateur.
Right.
I just talked to a lot of guys. I kind of went to the gym, worked out, and a couple people that.
So I have a picture up inside the club of all you guys, and Jorge's pictured there. But I do have a quick clip of you were at some place getting ready for a fight, and Jorge just took you over to the side and started getting you ready. Let's take a look at that. And it's one part of this video you almost like knocked his head off.
You know what? I can't see it from my.
No, I know. He came pretty close. There it is. There, you almost knocked his head off. But so Jorge took a liking to you.
Yeah. So at that point, I was getting myself in shape, and then we started working together. And as I said, Jorge trained Jake Rodriguez, who was world champion. Jake was a southpaw.
Right.
So I'm a southpaw. 90% of fighters are not southpaws. So Jorge's style meshed with me very well. He's good with southpaws, and me and Jake have a lot of similarities in our boxing style. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't probably a lot of tweaking on Jorge's end that he had to do to train me. He probably trained me very similar to the way he trained Jake.
Now the sport, Tommy, the sport of boxing, as far as being a southpaw, now is that are you in the you're in the minority, right? I mean that's like
big time. Yeah, 90% of fighters are right-handed.
90% is right-handed.
9 out of 10 fighters are going to be right-handed. Yeah.
And then you have,
So-
and then you have the unconventional fighters that can go and switch. Right, they're ambidextrous.
Yeah, there aren't a lot
can...
of those guys. I mean, I fought 2 in my pro career, but there are only a handful. A guy like Terrence Crawford, Lomachenko. Some of these guys switch lefty, righty, righty, lefty.
And that's got to be a challenge, right? That's got to be a challenge for you.
Oh, absolutely. You got to reset everything.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, how do you, and we'll get to, Dusty here in a minute, but as far as like, training for different fights and as far as having a sparring partner for the situation, that's, you have to match up your opponent with a sparring partner, I would imagine, right?
To a degree, yes. That's the interesting thing when you first start pro. Your first pro fights, there's really very little footage on the guy.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll know if he's a lefty or righty, and you'll spar a lot of right-handed guys. It's usually going to be a righty.
Right.
I remember my first 5 or 6, at least my first 6 pro fights, I saw no footage of the guy whatsoever. Basically, I just saw what his record was. We fought where he fought, and I knew he was a righty. So I just went.
Did you ever fight Did you ever fight a lefty?
Yeah, and I hate it. I fought 3 southpaws as a pro. I beat them all too. I fought 3 southpaws and I fought 2 guys that switched lefty righty.
Wow.
And I tell people this, I pretty much won every single round as a pro that I fought against a southpaw. And sitting in your front row seat, it looks like Tommy's in complete control and handling business easily. And I hated every second of it. I was uncomfortable every moment of the way. So as good as it looks on the outside, on the inside, it felt totally different.
Yeah.
So the same way right-handed fighters don't like to fight the southpaws, southpaws don't like to fight southpaws.
I got some footage of you. I just labeled it Tommy kicking ass. So let's take a look.
We go to the judges' scorecards. Judge Alan Rubenstein scores the bout 40-35, while judges Waleska Roldan and John McKay both score the bout 39-36. All for your winner by unanimous decision. From Plainview, New York, Tommy the Razor Rainone.
That was cool. That was good. I didn't pick up on the fighter that you were fighting, but he did well. He did well in that fight. You train for 3-minute rounds, right?
Yeah.
And the training for a 3-minute round in boxing, how long do you train, to do something like? What's that?
Yeah, you mean per day in a gym session. So to get ready for one fight, which might be a 4-rounder, a 6-rounder, an 8-rounder, a 10-rounder, you literally train hundreds of rounds just to get ready for that one fight for X amount of rounds.
And that's for endurance, obviously.
Yeah, well, for multiple things. Yeah. So
yeah.
I would say that obviously it changed the different aspects of my career as I moved on to the 6-rounders, 8-rounders, 10-rounders. But usually I would say between 18 and 25 rounds a day. When I was really peaking and getting very close to the fight, like a week before the fight, I put in like 25 to 28 rounds in a day. Wow. And then you go home, and then I got to go run another 4 or 5 miles or do wind sprints or whatever the case was that night.
Unbelievable. And
It's a lot of hard work.
yeah,
really
it,
is,
it
but
definitely is, man. I mean, for the small little time that I spent doing, not half, even tenth of what you do, but just to get the taste of boxing, I just saw how much work that's involved in just trying to compete with somebody in the ring is just incredible.
Yeah.
And hats off to you, man. It's what an awesome career you've had to this point. Some more chats coming in. How close are you with Chris Algieri?
Oh, I know Chris well. I used to spar Chris a ton. I probably sparred Chris somewhere along the line of probably about 60 rounds.
Oh wow, okay. And
Yeah, probably.
and people want to know where your name Razor came from.
My friend Brendan Franklin, actually. I got that nickname because I was always I was getting a lot of street fights when I was young,
Yeah.
and he gave me that nickname when we were about 7th grade or so.
Tell
I
me,
got in a fight
how many times in an interview have you heard that question? I can just imagine how many times you've heard that. Oh my God.
My friend, you know what? My friend gets a shout out every time
he does. He gets a shout out, and there you go. There you go. Yeah, that's pretty intense. As far as your punch, was your punch ever like recorded as far as pressure? And did you ever like go into the analytics of boxing?
No, I never did anything like that. That's more like new school technology that you're seeing a lot more of the last 3-4 years. So,
Yeah.
I never.
Everything's analytics today. Everything,
Yeah.
every sport, it's just crazy,
Mm.
And breathing, as far as when you deliver a punch, you breathe out.
Yeah, you want to exhale, of course.
Yeah, you breathe out. And what's the detriment to holding your breath? What would obviously somebody that's doing it completely wrong.
Yeah, well, it all comes with experience. It comes with relaxation and composure, and that comes with experience.
Right.
So you got to learn how to breathe in the ring.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you have a mouthpiece in your mouth. You don't want to be opening your mouth because you get hit in the jaw, you break your jaw.
That's it.
How to breathe. You got to learn how to breathe through your nose and be comfortable breathing through your nose. So I'll do drills like when I go running, I'll go run 4 or 5 miles, and the whole time I'm breathing through my nose the whole time.
Wow.
In the beginning stages, when I first started doing that, or if I'm training for a fight and I first start doing that, it is difficult. But then you get used to it like anything else, and it becomes second nature.
Mm-hmm.
But for the average guy to hop in a ring and just spar 1 3-minute round, they're gonna burn themselves out. I don't have to do a lot with them.
Yeah.
I just give them a different look and just make them miss a little bit and touch them, and they're gonna be exhausted on their own because there's no composure there, and it takes a while to get that.
Now, in boxing, as far as you're boxing your opponent in the ring, do you want to create angles as a boxer? You don't want to be head on, right? I mean, as far as when your boxing stance, is an angle, correct?
Yeah, of course. So if you're a lefty or righty, you're on a slight
angle.
So if we're fighting, I'm not facing you like this.
Right.
You all this real estate.
Right.
I'm on more of a side angle.
On a side angle. Right. Yeah, I mean it's something that is talked about, but it's an obvious thing that you got to create an angle. As far as your when you won the belt, how did that all come to be? That you were the belt was open. It was an open up for grabs.
Yeah. I won 2 belts. I won a belt in 2012 and then again in 2014. That was the more important belt of the 2.
Right.
And that led to me getting the main event at Madison Square Garden a couple months later with Dusty.
Right.
The title was vacant. The USBO title was vacant. So
yeah.
So actually, that fight took place. I'll tell you an interesting story. So I trained on Post Avenue in Westbury, as we discussed. So now, when I first started training there in 1997, there was a movie theater a couple blocks down from the gym on Post Avenue. And ironically, the last movie that ever played there was Titanic, and the place went out of business. So on the sign, it said Titanic for probably 15 years. That movie theater opened something in the 1930s or 40s. It was there for like 50 years. And it closed down in 1997. So for years, it was just an abandoned theater.
Right.
So I was running on Post Avenue after working out, and there were some construction workers doing work on that building. So just out of curiosity, I asked the guy, I'm like, what's going to be coming here? And he told me it's just like a theater. He said a theater, like performing arts theater. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
So I went on Facebook and did a little research, and I was able to contact the owner of that venue, the space.
Right.
And
it's a great venue.
Yeah. I was able to go over there like a couple days later and do a tour of the place. And I asked him if he would be interested in doing boxing there, because I had a couple promoters that I knew that might be interested in bringing a show there. And he said he was open to the idea. And then I mentioned it to a promoter that I had fought for a couple of times, Greg Cohen. And he came, he checked the venue out, loved it. Next thing you know, boom.
Right. So that leads me to an important question. You're a self-promoter, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I never wanted to be aligned with a promoter. I just I kind of always wanted to call my own shots, which is a difficult way to go about things.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's got to be incredibly difficult, because you're the fighter, and and then you have your whole corner with you, Jorge, and who's your cut man, and who's in your corner with you.
It's me, my assistant trainer Chris Padilla, and George Mitchell's my cut man.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's a difficult way to go about things.
Absolutely.
I had a lot of friends who had signed promotional contracts, and it turned out to be a nightmare. And they were locked in the contract, and who wasn't getting fights, who was getting offered these terrible fights, terrible purses, things of that nature. So once you're locked in that contract, I mean, if you actually read the literature in a boxing contract for a promoter, they're all 3-year contracts, by the way. All the power is in the promoter's hand. All the power.
Right.
And you can't get out of that contract. You're locked in for 3 years. So I never wanted to really be involved in that. I figured, it's a very difficult road I'm going to go, going without a promoter. But at least I can fight for whoever I want, whenever I want. I don't have to answer to anybody, and kind of call my own shots.
Right.
And it was difficult, because getting fights meant that oftentimes I had to make a lot of concessions. Whether it was fighting for cheaper purses, whether it was fighting certain guys that I wasn't crazy about fighting. All different kinds of concessions throughout the course of my career. You have a promoter, he's supposed to be the guy who has your best interest in mind. So he's going to move you a certain way and get you the right guys and things of that nature. So to go take the road that I traveled, it was different. I mean, it was unique, but it was different, and it was also fulfilling in a sense, because I kind of did everything on my own. I mean, I was self-managed my whole career, with the exception of a manager that I had for 3 fights, and it just didn't work out. And I went back to managing myself, and I had a promoter for 3 fights and 3 fights only, and that was right before the Harrison fight, actually. Wow. And at that point, I had gotten myself all the way to the main event at Madison Square Garden, and this guy wanted to sign a contract with me, and he says, you shouldn't be going into the biggest fight of your career as a non-attached fighter. It's going to be a better look if you're, with a promoter. So I said, listen, I got myself here. I'm like, nobody invested in Icklin. I'm like, I got myself to the dance, and I'm just like, and you want to be aligned with me now? If I win, and this is a Rock Nation show, I mean, like, I'm in a very good position. So I had a guy.
So let's talk about the whole Rock Nation thing, because I mean, dude, Madison Square Garden. I mean, you fought there before I actually witnessed a fight there that you were in, but I mean that was like Jay-Z, the whole Rock Nation thing, and then they have this the Dusty Hernandez fighter. That's under their control, correct?
Yeah. Rock Nation had Dusty signed. He was one of the first fighters they signed. And as I was just saying, I ended up signing with this guy 2 days before the Harrison fight. But I did so where I changed a lot of the provisions in the contract. So I said, you know what? There was a guy that was advising me at the time that I had a good relationship with at that time. And I said, listen, you know what? I did it more for him than I did to be aligned with that promoter. I said, you know what? I'm going to sign the contract. I'll do it. But I'm going to change a lot of literature in that contract. So a boxing contract, when you sign with a promoter, it's like 35 pages where you're constantly sign, initial, sign.
Yeah.
Anything that I'm not comfortable with, I'm crossing out. Anything I'm not comfortable with, I'm crossing out and changing. So we went over it on the phone.
You're pissing a lot of people off, man.
Yeah, and I changed the contract from 3 years to 6 months. And I said, listen, I said, listen, it's real simple. We'll revisit this in 6 months. If we're both happy, I'll sign a 3-year contract. If we're not, nothing lost. And 6 months later, I was out of that contract.
Yeah, but I
I'm
mean,
glad I did sign
let's.
because
Yeah, I mean, but early on in your career, you weren't doing this. I mean, you wanted the fights. You were kind of a little more lax in your decision making as far as being your self promoter, weren't you? I mean, I know you're in your own best interest, and you fight for yourself, which is awesome. But as you're coming up through the ranks, there's got to be some give and take, no?
Well, like I said, I mean, in 37 professional fights, I fought for something like 25 different promoters. Okay, I had good relationships with a few different promoters. Some promoters I fought for multiple times.
Right.
There were a lot of different promoters in New York at that time when I was coming up. So I was usually able to get myself fights and get myself on a different show. And if one promoter wasn't interested in me, I'd go knock on the door of another promoter. So I wouldn't use the term that I was self-promoted as much. I was self-managed. I just didn't have a promoter, and I dealt with other promoters. But even looking back, there were a couple contracts that I was offered and I turned down. I got offered one contract. I remember when I was about 10-0. I read the contract and I'm like, "You're not offering me anything that I'm not getting for myself right now." And then I'm locked in a 3-year contract. Wow. And after I read this contract, I'm like, you know what? If this is the best that's out there for me right now, I'm better off I turned it down. Right. And I said, I'm better off just going about things the way I've been going about them. And if I can get myself to 20 wins, maybe I'll get a big fight. And that's kind of what happened.
I have, with all the technology in sports today, they fool around with helmet cams. And I have a video. I think you were training for the Dusty fight, and they strapped a helmet cam.
Oh no, that was Bobby Cassidy from Newsday. We did a video. No, that was well before the.
That was before.
Yeah, that was probably 3-4 years before Dusty. I was sparring Richie Neves, who's a fighter that I managed. Actually, I managed him his whole career.
Yeah.
So me and Richie used to spar a ton, and Bobby. I did a lot of different stuff with Bobby over the years for Newsday. So he wanted to do this helmet cam for Newsday. So yeah,
it's pretty cool. Let's take a look at that.
Sparring is essentially a real fight with you got your headgear on to avoid getting cut, but it doesn't really absorb much of the impact of the punches.
Sparring is basically like studying for a test. Without the sparring, you're really not going to know exactly what you have to do when the time comes.
It's about getting quality sparring, different kinds of sparring partners. You can't get the same guy all the time, then you're going to be too comfortable with one another.
So sometimes it does get ugly in here.
It looks like you were aiming for the camera. You see the camera there. That's pretty funny. So let's talk about the Dusty fight. So, leading up to the fight, how did that all come to be? As far as now, you're in your own driver's seat. Then you have Jay-Z with Rock Nation and the Madison Square Garden, and obviously, I mean, look. I'll put the tail of the tape up. Your opponent, is 6 foot. I mean, he's a big guy.
Yeah, he's tall and long, and he's also 20 years old, and I had just turned 35 the day before.
I know.
So I was up against a lot of.
I know. What were you thinking, man?
Unfortunately, listen, that's the way the business of boxing is. A lot of times you got to keep grinding away until you get your opportunity, but your opportunities, and most times it's not going to be the most convenient of opportunities, or you might have to go up a weight class, or even go down a weight class. You might have to fight somebody far more experienced. You might have to fight somebody a lot younger. I mean, it's not going to be the perfect situation always, but you get yourself to that position, and and you make your move. I actually got offered that fight about a year earlier, and I'm glad I held out. I I was contacted by a promoter to fight Dusty at Madison Square Garden on the Gennady Golovkin undercard. And I didn't even get as far as talking about money. I said, is there TV involved? And he says, no, you'd be on the undercard, but the fight will be shown overseas. I said, so it's not going to be shown in America. I said, listen, at the time I want to say 25 pro fights. And he's undefeated at the time himself. He's somewhere around like 20-0. I said, listen, I'm not fighting a 20-0 kid in my backyard in New York off TV. He's like, you don't want to even hear how much money's involved? I said, I don't care how much money's involved. So if I was going to fight somebody like that, I was going to get TV involved.
Right.
And with TV, you can make money with sponsors. And
Sure.
And by holding out, instead of fighting him on an undercard off TV at Madison Square Garden, I got the main event at Madison Square Garden on TV and have all the bells and whistles that came along with it. So that was, one of the decisions in my career that actually worked out well.
Look at you. Look at you. And as you're speaking your mind, a tweet came in, a chat came in. The Razor, great boxing mind from A.K. Perez. I guess a fan. I can also see the trips to the pizzeria multiple times a week paying off. So I don't know. Maybe you know that person. Maybe you don't. I don't know.
I'm not familiar with that name, but what's the name again?
AKA Peris.
Oh, Anthony Paris. Yeah, that's my boy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. He's your boy.
Yeah. Anthony was a fighter too, but he's not. He retired a couple of years ago. And he's not so thin these days either.
Trips to the pizzeria. That's an extra mile or two. Come on.
Yeah.
So all right. So I have I don't know. Michael Buffer, I think, should retire. I don't know.
Well, he's pretty much retired at this point. I mean, Dave Diamante is going to be the Michael Buffer of the next 40 years.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
He's calling all the fights now, and Michael Buffer just does the main event, and that's it.
Doesn't he have a brother too? Doesn't he have a brother?
Yeah, Bruce Buffer, and he's in the UFC. Yeah, he does the UFC. But Michael Buffer, at this point, he only does the main event. He has an exclusive contract with DAZN, and he just does main events for DAZN. That's it. So I mean, he's pretty much retired at this point.
So I got a video of the weigh-in. Have you seen this video? Well, I mean, you were there, and you know what happened, right?
Are you talking about the?
Well, you know what? Let me run the video, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Scale this time, as Rock Nation Sports proudly presents the main event of the evening tomorrow night, official weigh-in. Let's make sure I get this right. It's for 10 rounds of boxing, and on the line will be the vacant WBC Continental America's Welterweight Championship. First up onto the scales, he's a native son of New York City, professional record 22 victories, including 4 wins by knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, Vinny the Razor Rainone! New York City. Welterweight limit is 147 on the scales. Tommy the Razor Rainone. 146.8 pounds for Tommy the Razor Rainone. Next up onto the scales, 24 fights, 24 victories, including 13 wins by knockout from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. He is the undefeated Beltweight Boricua, Dusty Hernandez-Harrison. 145 pounds. For Dusty Hernandez-Harrison, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have the fighters come to the front of the stage for a photo op. Here they are, ladies and gentlemen, our main event fighters. The Mecca of boxing, Madison Square Garden, the main event. Tommy the Razor Rainone, Dusty Hernandez-Harrison.
One more shot.
Fighters, look up here.
Straight out.
It's all brought to you by Rock Nation
Look to your right.
Sports.
Look to your right, fighters.
Friday night, live on Fox Sports 1 Network.
The guy's right down the center here. Right there.
And to your right?
So, is Vinny your middle name?
No, I'll tell you exactly what happened with that. So I had.
Wait, hold on. How old is Michael Buff?
Michael Buffer's in his 70s. I would say early 70s.
He looks good.
It does. I had met Michael Buffer probably I think 3-4 years earlier at Foxwoods in Connecticut at Sergio Martinez fight. And I just met him, had a brief conversation with him. Super nice guy. At the weigh-in, Michael Buffer's finally, calling my name out, and he said, Vinny Rainone. And horrified is an understatement. And I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. So he came up to me after the weigh-in. He's like, "Listen to me. I am so sorry." And I knew, I knew what happened. Before he even told me what happened, I knew what happened. He said, "I am so sorry." He's like, "Are you related to Vinny Rainone?" I said, I said, "I've been asked that for the last 15 years." Vinny Rainone was a very well-known boxing referee in the 70s and 80s. And he's like, "I haven't seen that name in over a decade."
Really?
So immediately when I saw the last name Rainone, I thought of Vinny. I used to be very good friends with him. So I'm so sorry. And I'm like, as long as you don't do it tomorrow night, we're good.
And on cue, a chat came in from your buddy, Razor Rainone. That's what he was calling you, Rainone. Oh God, that's funny, man.
Yeah.
So you're fighting Dusty, and how did you train for him? Because
I was in phenomenal shape for that fight because I just fought 2 months earlier. I just fought for the USBO title 2 months earlier, and I was in great shape for that fight. I made the weight 146. I weighed for that fight, and then I basically went right back into training for Dusty, probably 2-3 weeks later. But there wasn't a whole ton of work to do to get myself in great shape because I was already in great shape.
Right.
So it was just about getting the right kind of sparring partners. So obviously Dusty's a much taller, longer guy than I am. He's 6 foot. He's got a long reach. So I was sparring tall, long guys. I remember I was sparring, Chris Algeria. I sparred for that fight. Thomas Lamana. Trying to think. I was sparring tall, long, rangy fighters similar to Dusty. So,
Because, with a tall fighter like him and with his reach being, pretty close to what? 4 or 5 feet or something like that. He has long arms, man. You got to get inside on a boxer at some point, and you had trouble doing that?
Well, it's yes and no. I fought plenty of taller guys throughout the course of my career, amateur and pro. And honestly, height was really never an issue. I was always able to box guys in and out, meaning that I would use my legs, get in range, get a combination off, get out of range. So that was my plan for Dustin. I said, you know what? He's tall and long, but so are plenty of other guys that I beat already. So my plan was to just get in and out. I didn't have I've never been an inside fighter. Okay, so I like to fight at long range and medium range, but I was never really comfortable fighting on the inside.
Right,
For a guy like Dusty, that's where you want to be. You want to be in his chest. You want to fight him on the inside. So in retrospect, hey, listen, getting ready for that fight, as I said, I was in great shape, and I was definitely ready for the fight.
Right.
He was just a better man that night. But in retrospect, I wish I had more of a game plan as far as I trained for that fight to fight on the inside, to stay in his chest. But I thought that I could box him in and out as I did most of these tall, long guys throughout my career, and I couldn't do it with them.
Yeah.
And I didn't train to fight on the inside, so you're not going to suddenly do something in a fight you didn't train to do. So especially something that's not your style and something that you're uncomfortable doing.
We have a chat here. Jofer 510. Tommy, this is the most I've ever watched you in a ring. That was from Jofer 510 and Al 2740. My name is Razor. Great guy. By the way, it's gravy, not sauce.
It's sauce. It's definitely sauce. I've been having this argument for years.
Yeah, I know. It's sauce.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
In Italy, they've never heard of gravy. Okay, it's sauce.
It's sauce. Gravy is brown to me, but it's sauce. There's the Sunday gravy. It's the whole debate. You can go on.
I twitch when I hear the word.
I know. What, the Sunday gravy?
I don't want to hear the word gravy unless it's going on mashed potatoes or it's Thanksgiving. I don't know what gravy is.
Exactly. All right. So I have a clip here that was from Fox on some of the highlights of the fight. Let's take a look.
On Friday night, Jay-Z's Rock Nation made their promotional debut, presenting a doubleheader on Fox Sports 1. In the main event, hot prospect Dusty Hernandez-Harrison took on New York fan favorite Tommy Rainone in welterweight action. Rainone had some success in the first round with a well-timed jab, managing to stay away from the much larger Hernandez in the early going. Ultimately, though, the differential in skill began to shine through, and Harrison started to beat Rainone to the punch consistently, taking away his left hand. In round 7, Hernandez appeared to have Rainone hurt with a short right hand and began opening up along the ropes, looking for the knockout.
Heavy shots now. Rainone in trouble. Hernandez-Harrison, punches in bunches.
Rainone would survive and managed to make Hernandez work for 10 rounds for just the second time in his career. Hernandez improves to 25-0, while Rainone drops to 22-6-1.
So I got to say, you didn't go down. 10 rounds, you didn't go down.
It was a difficult fight. I mean, in 37 pro fights, I think I had 2 fights that my opponent was just simply better than me. That was Dusty Harrison and Ishe Smith. A few of the fights throughout the course of my career, some of the fights that I lost, I beat myself. A couple of times I thought that I should have got the decision. There's nothing I can do about how the judges score a fight. A couple of times I beat myself. I really only feel that 2 guys that I'm probably not beating on my best night is Dusty and Ishe. Ishe was just too big for me, and a former world champion, a ton of experience, and just ultimately too big for me. I went up to 154 to fight him. And Dusty, that particular night, when I fought Dusty, along with Errol Spence, he was the top prospect in all of America.
And let me ask you a question, and it's a question with the certain classes, you know, the welterweight, the super well, you know, all these classes. So if you go into a weigh-in and you miss the weigh-in, if you go, I mean, you're going to know before you even step on the scale what you weigh. But let's say you're, I don't know, let's say you're over the weight limit. What happens?
You got a problem. Well,
or on the other side, what if you're under the weight limit? What happens?
No, you could be under. You could be under.
By how many pounds though?
It all depends on the so if I'm fighting, let's say the contract weight might be 147 plus 1. So that means that you got to be 147 pounds or 148 pounds.
Right.
That's what it is. You got to be 147 or 148. So if I go to the weigh-in, I'm 148.5. I got half an hour to go lose that. I got 1 hour actually to go lose that half a pound. That happened to me 2 times in my career. That happened to me in my 3rd pro fight when I fought in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
That happened to me in Atlantic City in 2016. And I went and I knocked that pound off, and that was that. And I came back, and the fight went on. There were several times throughout the course of my career that my opponent actually didn't make weight. And at that point, it was really my discretion. It was up to me to decide. Listen, when you put in 5, 6, 7 weeks of hard training and sacrifice and dieting and all that goes along with it, and your opponent 3-4 pounds over, you're not, and he doesn't want to drop the weight. It's either, you know what, fight and get paid, or what am I gonna do? Walk away from the fight?
Right.
In those instances where my opponent didn't make weight, I said, all right, whatever, let's go. The only one time that they forced my opponent to lose weight was actually Carl McNichols when I fought for the USBO title, because that was a title fight. So he had to be 147.
Oh, I see. So they're a little more strict on the title fights than they are.
Yeah, the title fight, you got to be at that weight or below.
Right. Yeah, well, sure.
Anything else can be worked out. Like, for example, when I fought, as I said, I missed weight only 2 times in my career, but I didn't officially miss weight. I got to the weigh-in, I got on the scale, and I'm like, oh, shit, I got a pound to lose. So, Atlantic City, yeah.
I wish I had that problem.
Yeah, so what happened with Atlantic City was I just left the sauna. I weighed myself at Bally's Casino, and I'm like, all right, I'm good. Got to the weigh-in, and when I got on the scale, I'm like, I was, I think, a little more than a half a pound over. The scale over at Bally's was inaccurate.
Oh, wow.
Ultimately, that's my fault. It doesn't make a difference. It's my responsibility. So, as I'm about to leave and head over go back to the sauna and pull off that half a pound, the manager comes over and he's just like, "What, do you want to work something out?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" And he's just like, "You know, if you pay us $500, you know, we'll let it slide."
Oh, God.
I'll see you in a half an hour. And I left and lost that half a pound and came right back.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's your go-to diet? Like when you're in training for a fight, what do you eat? Chicken?
Nothing. I'll tell you the truth. I had early in my career, in my whole amateur career, and I would say the first 30 or so pro fights, I made weight without any issue whatsoever, and I never had a great diet. So I'm talking about I was eating pizza on a regular basis, ravioli, pasta, cereal, cold cuts, chipotle.
Right.
All I wasn't doing was, obviously, I'm not drinking. If I'm getting ready for a fight, I'm in the zone. There's no drinking or anything.
Right.
But essentially, I was out training a bad diet. So I would kill myself in the gym and work hard, and then I would make weight. As I get older, your metabolism slows a little bit, and things start to change. So it wasn't until probably like my 32nd, 33rd pro fight that I had to really start watching what I was eating. So then the last 3-4 fights of my career was really a struggle to make weight. And at that point, I was for 5, 6, 7 weeks living off, I couldn't tell you how many calories. It wasn't much more than 1,000 calories a day.
Wow.
Basically, I would have a couple of hard-boiled eggs in the morning. I'd have like a salad in the afternoon, like a little grilled chicken at night. And that was it. That was it. So I was eating like a bird the last 4 or 5 fights of my career. It was difficult. But
it's got to be amazing how you can train yourself. It's got to be amazing how you can train yourself, to almost fast, during leading up to days before the fight, because you got to make the weight and everything. It has to be right. But what about how far do you you're running? You're training. You're running. How many miles do you run?
I always diversified my run. So I would say, let's say on a Monday I would do a long run, so I'd run maybe 5 or 6 miles. Then Tuesday I would do wind sprints. Wednesday off. Then Thursday I would do track work with my brother Mario, who could fly. That kid could run his ass off. So I would basically do whatever he asked. All kinds of hard track work. Then again on Friday I might do like a 2-mile run, but all out on full speed from beginning to end. And then again on Saturday I'll make it a long run again. I might run 6 or 7 miles, and then take Sunday off. So I always switched it up and diversified. It wasn't like every day 3 miles. It was always a different kind of run.
Right. Well, you need to switch it up, and this way it's almost like you're tricking your body.
Exactly. Keep your body guessing.
Yeah.
One thing my brother had me do was, and he's much faster than me. The kid was born to run. He's 6 foot, probably like 155 pounds, and we'd be jogging at a steady pace, and I'd be on his back, and then I don't know when it's coming. 3, 2, 1. He takes off running full speed, and I don't know when he's going to stop.
Oh my
God! I gotta keep up, and it might be 15 seconds, it might be 45 seconds.
Right.
And it's right back to a jog, and then boom, we go again, and that's over and over again for the duration of like 2.5 miles.
That going back to the movie The Rocky, the first one, when he's training and he's with the chickens, that's a great scene, because he's got to catch the chicken. Oh, that's awesome. So as far as the chats, you got another compliment here from Al2740. Raises one of the most knowledgeable fighters and announces in the game, which we'll get to. Great future for the networks. So that's very nice. Thank you for that,
Thank you,
Al. 2740. So Hall of Fame. You're in the Hall of Fame?
No, absolutely not. That's a false threat.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. I got some pictures with you with a plaque. What is this?
No, that was just an award I got a couple of years ago. That was just an award.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What was I thinking? Jesus, I'm thinking Hall of Fame. And who is pictured here with the you can't see it, but with the blonde hair spiked up, leather pants. He looks like a rocker. I don't know. He's standing next to another guy that's holding the plaque with a beard.
Yeah. His name is Rich. He was a boxing trainer a few years ago. So.
Okay.
Yeah, me along with my friend Anthony Paris, we got it was a Long Island Boxing Achievement Award. So.
All right.
Yeah, so that is the guy that was in charge of that one.
Well, look, Hall of Fame. Maybe
Hall
someday.
of Fame, plaque, same thing.
Same thing. So currently, obviously you're not fighting. but you know, with it, you are instructing, right?
Yeah, I mean, in 2016, I started doing personal training, and I actually teach 2 classes a week at a white collar boxing gym. Right now, I'm not doing that obviously because of the pandemic.
Right.
All the gyms in New York are closed. But in 2016, you know, I was starting to wind down my professional career, and I knew that I had to find something to do to supplement my income and my time. So so everything kind of fell into place, and I started doing some personal training, teaching classes, which led to the personal training as well. So now I got a whole bunch of clients, and
where do you train people for personal in boxing? Because I have a clip here of you instructing a kid. You're like sparring.
Yeah, that was when I first started doing that over at Title Boxing. That's where I teach a couple of classes a week.
Okay.
Originally, I was doing a lot of my personal training over there, and then now I do. I still teach the 2 classes a week over at Title Boxing. I enjoy doing that. I like
That's
everybody
nice.
I work with. It's a cool environment.
Let's take a look. It's a quick clip of you with a kid in the ring. It's pretty good. That's nice. I mean, you're working with the kids, and he looks like he was deathly afraid of you. Nah, I'm kidding. But that was good. You're giving back, man. That's awesome. What else now? If you're not training, if you're not instructing, is there like a job? Is there like?
Yeah, no, I worked my whole career. I've been working since I'm 14. I've never stopped. I probably never will stop. But I've worked for a Hilton Hotel for 15 years. December is going to be 16 years, actually.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I'm a supervisor. I work overnights, 11 to 7, Sunday through Thursday night. And I did that my whole career.
Wow.
And it got, sometimes it was madness, getting ready for a fight.
Yeah.
While working a full-time job. And then at the very end of my career, on top of that, I was also doing the personal training. It was chaos. But I'd rather have too much on my plate than not enough.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, just to try to manage all that stuff and have your head screwed on for to battle in a ring with somebody. That's crazy, man. So commentating. Let's talk about that because that's something new that you're getting involved with. Yeah.
Yeah. I did my first show in April of 2018. Vanda Holyfield started a promotional company in New York, Real Deal Promotions, and Eric Bentley was their COO. And Eric used to work for the New York State Athletic Commission. I had known him for many years.
Right.
And then when he left the commission to go on this venture with Holyfield for Real Deal Promotions, and then we were out to lunch one day, and he wanted to put me on the mic. So I only got to commentate 2 shows for them, and the company was done in less than a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Unfortunately, things didn't work out with that company. And then probably about, close to a year later, I finally got to do some commentating again with Fight Night Live. Mark Prado runs that company. That's his company. And I had contacted him about doing some commentating. Wanted to get back in the game. And then I did, I think 5 shows for them. Then I had 2 set to go in Boston just before the pandemic hit. I was actually supposed to be leaving for Boston, and then they pulled the plug on the show. It was one that was going to be the House of Blues on St. Patrick's Day, which I was really looking forward to. And they pulled the plug on that right before the day I was supposed to leave for Boston. And I had another one a couple of weeks later at Encore Casino in Boston, which is a beautiful brand new casino that's less than a year old. And I had commentated a show there prior. And obviously the pandemic hit and the country shut down and most of the world.
Yeah.
And that was that. So so now that boxing is back on TV, but it's without crowds and
yeah, it's weird. I mean, all
probably
the
be a little while
sports.
before I get back on the mic.
Yeah. I mean, all the sports are affected with all this stuff, and so, just off the topic, but on topic, with this Tyson fight coming up, exhibition fight that he's having. What's your read on something like that? I hear that the gloves are going to be oversized, but the guy's an animal.
Well, he was an animal.
Wow. Yeah, but I mean, come on, he's 50. What is he? 53, 54 years old.
54.
He's in great shape.
From my understanding, they're going to be fighting in 12-ounce gloves, which is not that much bigger than the glove they would be fighting in, which is 10 ounces. Heavyweights fighting 10-ounce gloves.
Right.
They're also supposed to be fighting with no headgear. It's also an 8-round fight. So it's starting to take on the structure of more of a real fight than an exhibition.
Right.
That being said, Mike's 54. Roy Jones is 53 or 52. I think he's 53.
53, I believe.
Yeah, he's 53. Listen, we're talking about two older guys, but the difference is it's interesting because Tyson has not fought since 2005. And this is a guy that didn't train for years. Tyson built like 350 pounds.
Tommy, I've seen some tape on this guy, and he's, he still has his speed is incredible. I don't know what he's taking.
Listen, what it is with Mike Tyson is just Mike Tyson has fast twitch muscles, and he always did.
Yeah.
And he's a genetic freak. You're talking about a guy that at 13 years old was 190 pounds of muscle. He was always a genetic freak. Now, that explosiveness, that power, that's always going to be there for him, especially when he's in shape. The thing is, though, listen, at the end of the day, it's one thing to do it on the bag or do it on the pads. It's another thing to do it when somebody's punching back at you. Now, I think it's actually an interesting fight. Tyson hasn't fought since 2005, where Roy Jones Jr. is far from removed from his prime, but Roy was active until 2018. So that means something. Roy's been fighting all these years.
Yeah.
There's a lot of intangibles. There's a lot of things directions this fight could go in. At the end of the day, I know that the 53-year-old version of Roy Jones Jr. he doesn't have legs anymore. He hasn't had legs or knees for years.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they approach each other in the ring and how they move.
Tyson has one speed, and that's to come forward.
Yeah,
he can destroy.
Dude, when he was fighting back in the 90s, that guy, it was an event every time he fought, and
well, that's why he had such a huge cultural impact. Tyson was popular culture in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah,
that's why his name still carries the weight that it does. And you'll see when this fight does take place, it's going to do huge numbers. And this is a 54-year-old guy that essentially this is a sideshow. This is
But I mean,
Mike Tyson does sells.
But what's after this fight for Mike Tyson? Like, let's say he goes in and he kicks his ass. I mean, are there going to be other fighters looking to fight him? I mean,
I mean, essentially it's supposed to be an exhibition tour, so he's going to be fighting guys in and around right around his age, and it's supposed to be multiple fights. Obviously, the first one has to go well.
Right. Sure.
He goes out there and he gets clipped on the chin by Roy Jones and takes some sort of beating. Obviously, the tour ends after Act 1.
Right. Well, I don't know. We're gonna see. I can't. I'm gonna get my popcorn ready for that one. That should be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
To say the least. So, I was reading something about acting. You're an actor too?
Well, no, I wouldn't say.
How many freaking things do you do?
No, I was in an off-Broadway play. I'm definitely not an actor.
Wow.
Off-Broadway play. Same guy, Bobby Cassidy, who you saw the helmet clip from earlier. As I said, I mean, from my pro career to today, he's always been a guy that looked out for me. He works for Newsdays. As humble as they come, he's the most thankless individual I've
Oh, wow. That's really nice. Yeah.
So he's a great guy. There isn't a person in the world that has anything bad to say about Bobby Cassidy. And his father was a hell of a fighter. He was the #1 light heavyweight in the world, Bobby Cassidy Sr. And he's from Levittown. He's a great light heavyweight fighter in the 70s and early 80s.
Oh, wow.
So Bobby wrote this play about his father. It's called Kid Shamrock. And this was the second production of it. And Bobby had contacted me, Richie Neves, who was the kid that I was sparring in that
This
video.
was like several years ago. I mean, this
was 2011. This was late 2011.
Oh,
I was actually getting ready for my second fight at Madison Square Garden. So it was actually very hectic. So I would be training, and in between training to get ready for that fight, I'd be doing that play was 11 straight nights, but also we were auditioning for a few weeks prior to that. And I was getting ready, and I think I fought maybe I fought somewhere right in the middle of that play. I had the fight because I was training, had the fight, and then went right back to the play. But it was a really cool, unique experience. I got to meet some really good guys that I'm still friends with today.
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
it was definitely something I enjoyed.
Something different, right? I mean, you got.
I mean, listen, it wasn't much of a stretch. I was playing a boxer. But
well, I know, but all right. So you were
cool
typecast a little bit. What are you gonna do, right? But that could lead to other things. You never know.
Never know.
Hey, look, Tommy, it was really great to have you on tonight. I really can't thank you enough for making the time with your schedule and everything. I know you gotta run, and thanks again, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, no problem at all.
All right, and hopefully we didn't even touch on as far as what you're doing next. You want to tease something, or is there something to tease, or what's happening?
What's the tease during a pandemic? We don't know. We go here have gyms open in New York. So.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, ultimately, right now, I'm just interested in commentating, and I started doing a little writing last year for.
But if the right fighter comes your way. A little twist here and a little twist there. You never know, right? I mean,
yeah, but that's,
you're still young enough. Come on.
But most likely not. Most likely not. It's a lot easier to get paid for not taking punches than taking punches.
Yeah, that's true. That's for sure.
But I never say never. At the same time,
never say never.
That's a fighter is always a fighter. It's always in your blood. It never really goes away. It's like having hepatitis B. Like your blood's infected and it can pop up at any time.
Yeah, well, we don't want to go there, Jesus. But no, I mean, thanks again, Tommy. Enjoy your rest of your evening, and thanks for stopping in again.
Absolutely.
All right, stay right there. Don't touch that dial. That was great. Tommy was awesome. I'm so happy that he stopped by Buzz Talk Live, and I wish him all the best. In his commentating and with network coverage and everything that he's doing. So Thursday night, circle back to Buzz Talk Live. We're going to be interviewing Kelly Perrine, who's we're going to go out to Hollywood. He's an actor. He's been on numerous of major sitcoms. So tune in at 9 p.m. on Thursday night, and that should be a good show. He's a good guy. He has a good story to tell. So that's all for us tonight. You can find me on all the social media out there at Buzz Talk Live. So stick around for the next show on Thursday night at 9. Stay tuned, and good night, America.